Welcome to Kiran Academy. Today I discuss about the important topic that is the Manchurian crisis. It is very important topic for your knowledge. It is very important on the Chinese history. So we discuss about the Manchurian crisis. Today I discuss about the cause and consequences of the Manchurian crisis. It is very important. Let's start. Firstly, we see the causes in the short point. Then I briefly discussing that. Let's start. The first, the cause of the Manchurian crisis. One point, the economic depressions. Second, the military expansions. Three, the Mukend incident in 1931 and the political instability in China. 4 point. 5 point, failure of the international defense by failure of the League of Nations. So let's start. First point, the economic depressions. How the economic depression was the mainly cause of the Manchurian crisis. The first, the economic depression in the 1929 severely affected the Japanese economy and export dropped sharply. Industry shut down and unemployment rose. When the Great Depression era was began in 1929, the world's economy was vastly shut down. That is was affected also the Japan's economy. In this era of the Great Depressions, the export had dropped sharply. The Japan's export and import was dropped sharply and industry was shut down and unemployment rose. The Japan depend heavily on imports for the food and raw materials and export for the incomes. As the result, the government and the military began to look for a new territories. When the when the economically down, Japan was a no survivor, so he see the other territories for the raw materials, food, supplies. So he was searching the new territories that provide the natural resources like the coal, iron, timber, and economic market. In this, when he search, he see the a region that is called Manchuria in the northeastern side of the China. Was the rich resources has the fertility land due to rich resources and a fertility. The Japan believed controlling it would solve the economic problems, and this economic pressure became the reason of the Japanese decision and the invasion of the Manchuria in 1931. The Japan's believed I when I captured when I captured the Manchuria, then he was the economic problem was solved. So he was decided to attack the Manchuria and capture them. So he invaded the Manchuria in 1931. It is the first first point of the cause. Then the second point cause was the military expansion. The military expansion was the second cause of the Manchurian crisis. By the earlier of the 19th century, the Japanese military had gained to significant power and influence over the national policy. The Konkatan army stationed in Manchuria and acted the own initiative without approval of the Japanese government. By the earlier of the 1930, when the 1930 was come, the Japanese military gained significant power. The Japanese military was more powerful and influence over national policy. The Konkatan army, when the Konkatan government was held the power, then he introduced the Konkatan army and stationed the Manchuria and act the own inactive without the approval. The army was ruled by on his own policy. They do not want to the nation's approval. That is was a great cause of the military expansions. The many military leaders believed in expanding of the Japan's empire to gain the power and resources and national pride. So many military leaders that was believed the Japanese empire was expanded. So I get the resources, national pride. They follow the aggressive policy of the conquest and they believe that Japan had a right to the dominant of the Asia. They follow the aggressive policy. So the aggressive policy that was he was captured the many area and dominant in the Asia. In the 1931, The counting army and deliberately planned to carry out the invasion on the Manchuria, showing that Japanese military was driving the foreign policy through the expansionistic ambitions. This unchecked military aggression was the major cause of the Manchurian crisis. In the 1931, the counting army deliberately planned so countering army was deliberately planned to invasion in the Manchuria and showing the Japanese military was driving the policy. The, so the so the conquering army attacked the Manchuria in 1931 and captured was fully captured and the Japanese military driving the foreign policy and he wanted to the superpower in this era and he was driving the foreign policy. He was the foreign policy is modified by in their motive. Then through the expansion ambitions. So he was the expansion ambition was the cause of the and the military aggression was the major cause of the Manchurian crisis. Then discuss the third point, the Mukund incident in 1931. On the 8th September 1931, a small explosion occurred in the South Manchurian Railway near the Mukende. The railway was controlled by the Japanese. In that time, the Japan was attacked the Manchuria and captured the some part of the Manchuria, and the Mukend area was under control of the Japan. When the railway, the Manchurian railway near the Mukend area, now the in this time that is the Shanghai, Shanghai of China, and the Mukend area, the Manchurian railway was a small expansion occurred that is so although the damage was minor and the train was continued to run but the Japanese army falsely accused the Chinese soldier of the sabotage. In this incident known as Mukund incident was actually staged the Japanese counter army was the pretext to launch a full-scale invasion of the Manchuria. So, what the Japanese was the falsely accused the Chinese soldier was responsible for the expansions and or attack the railway. That is was the counting and launched the full scale invasion of the Manchuria. Use this the event and the excuse Japanese troops quickly occupied the entire regions. In this based on the region the Japanese troops, the military attacked the Manchuria and occupied the entire regions, leading to the start of the Manchurian crisis. And there was point the Manchurian crisis was started. The Mukden incident is the considered as a classical example of aggression under the false pretense. The Japanese false pretense was cause of the attack to the Manchuria and capture of the whole regions. That is was the cause of the Manchurian crisis. Then yes, as the third point, the fourth point, the political instability in China. This at that time in Manchurian crisis, the China was politically weak and divided. At that time of the Manchurian crisis, the China was politically weak and divided. The central government led by the nationalist Kuomintang under Chiang Kai-shek, and he was limited control of the area. Military control of the area, especially in the remote region of the Manchuria. Thus, much of the China was under control of the local warlords. When was the military warlords were captured so many area, and he was captured and ruled by the own policy. And the country was struggling the internal conflict. In this Manchuria conflict era, Manchuria crisis era, the China was struggled with the internal conflict, such as the Chinese civil war. In this time, the China was struggling with the civil war in the nationalist and communist. In this time, nationalist and communist was fighting with each other. The lack of unit and strong national army. In their time, the China had a perfect or strongest army, national army, and lack of the unity. There was no unity. So the Japanese was a golden chance to to the attack to the Manchuria and capture it, because China has the no powerful country in their time. So to Japan was advantage of this weakness of knowing that China was unlikely fight back the strong get immediate international help. So in the lastly the failure of the League of Nations, when the China sorry when the Japan attacked to the Manchuria and the China was weak, so the China was go to the League of Nations for the help and appealed for the help, but the League of Nations was the League of but as the result the League of Nations no take of action. That is was the biggest failure of the League of Nations. After the First World War, the League of Nations was formed to maintain the peace in the entire world. But in this case, the League of Nations was totally failed in this point. So the failure of the League of Nations was failure of the League of Nations was the cause of the Manchurian crisis. After the failure of the League of Nations, the encouraged the other aggressive countries like the Italy, Germany to the challenge the international peace as well. So that is was the cause of the Manchurian crisis. The other part we discuss about the consequences of Manchurian crisis. Creation of the Manchukuo. The Japanese established the puppet state called as Manchukuo in 1932 under the former Chinese Emperor Puji. The Japanese expanded puppet state. When the Japan was captured Manchuria, he has established a puppet state. Puppet state is a provincial state which was controlled by the Japans. In the what is the name? The Manchukuo in the 1932 under the former Chinese Emperor Pui. Then the second consequence, the undermining of the League of Nations. The League of Nations failures to punish the Japan revealed its weakness and encouraged further aggression by the other nations like the Italy. Before the sometime I discuss it. When the League of Nations was the failed, it is encouraged the other aggressive countries like the Italy and the Germany. The Japan's withdrawal from of the League of Nations. When was know that the weakness of the third point what say when the League of Nations has failures, that is revealed the weakness of the weakness of the League of Nations. The Japan was the more powerful in that time. In the 1933, Japan left the League of Nations and making a diplomatic breakdown and Japan's growing isolation. So Japan was believed that I am the powerful and dominance in the Asia. I am no need to the member of the League of Nations. Then the fourth point, the beginning of the Japanese imperialism in Asia. In the crisis marked the beginning of the Japan aggression expansion across the Asia, leading the eventually to the second Sino-Japan war. It is the entry of the World War II. When the Japanese crisis, Japan has the we need to capture to the Manchuria. Then he was grown. So there was the growth was vastly. Then he wanted to do dominance in the Asia. So he attacked the China and this war was called Sino-Japan War. In the Sino-Japan War was responsible for the Second World War. The impact on China. The China lost resource region and suffered for the instability by the millions of China. Civilization was subjected to harass and Japan rule. In Japan, the China has lost his rich resources areas and face the economic crisis, and he has the political instability was also they are grow and the million of the Chinese civilization was subjected harassed. The million Chinese civilization has faced to the some kind some kind of problems. So that was the key point of the consequences of the Manchurian crisis. I hope you understand better. It is my first class in that was I talk about the Manchurian crisis. So I hope you understand the subscribe my channel and share it. It is helpful for your study. Let's thank you. Jai Sitaram.